How do you finance your startup or add that cash injection to take you to the next level? One of those ways is through crowdfunding. And today I'm chatting with Danielle Wallington, founder of Flock Here, a new social media networking app connecting women who work from home to places and people that they can work with. Danielle raised over 20,000 in just over 30 days to fund the app. And we're going to be chatting about how you plan campaigns, choosing the rewards, marketing strategies, and much more. Danielle, thank you so much for joining me today.
No worries. Thank you. It's one of my favourite things to talk about.
Raising money. I
Yeah,
mean,
money. How can I get money in general?
as long as it's flowing in rather than flowing out. First of all, can you introduce who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Danielle, as you said, and I founded Flock Here, which is an app that connects women that are working from home to spaces to work from via our venue directory and also people to work with. So it's like your own local networking group, basically. And I founded it in 2022. I'm just trying to remember what year we are now. And we've just kind of soft launched it, so we're in the kind of testing phase at the moment. So yes, it's all very exciting.
And what made you decide to launch it and start it?
Yeah, so previously, for 5 years before I had the idea for Flock Here, I was running a community for female founders and freelancers. And one of the things that we did that was really popular was co-working meetups. So I've kind of already been running this, but in a different way. It hasn't been the app, but I feel like I feel like we've already been doing this. We've already been building up to what it is today. So when we were running the co-working meetups, we were running them before COVID, before obviously people that run their own business obviously always worked from home, but it wasn't so much of a, as big as it is now. So we were hosting co-working meetups every single week because when I first started working for myself, I found it really lonely and isolating, and I just missed having that team, having the people around me to work with, to chat to bounce ideas off of. So it was something that worked really well, and it became really popular. And then we started to have kind of hubs popping up all over across the UK. And then obviously lockdown happened. Luckily, we were already online before that happened. So we were doing virtual co-working sessions. And this was at a time where everyone was like, what's virtual co-working sessions? And now like everybody's doing them. So co-working's always been a big thing, something that I've always done. And what I noticed was that when we weren't running the sessions, I was always getting asked by people, where's somewhere that I can go and work for a couple of hours? I've got a meeting in this area, I don't know it very well. Or, where can I go and get my laptop out and not feel like, they're going to kick me out after one cup of coffee. So I started to feel like there's something in this, that when we're not always running the actual physical co-working sessions, there must be somewhere for women to go online, like a directory where they can actually look at recommended places that they can work from. So that's like where the idea kind of came from, something that we were already doing, but it kind of just developed over time. And yeah, I've got from my members, from feedback from hundreds of people that we've been working with over the years, I kind of put the idea out to them and they're like, yeah, this sounds great. So I kind of felt like I had to do it.
And for those people that may, and I don't mean to sound the way this might sound, but for people who've been living under a rock, can you explain what crowdfunding is?
Yeah, it's basically a way of raising money from the crowd. So it's a really great way of testing, especially if you've got a new business, testing the product market fit. So it's like going out into the world and saying, I've got this idea for something. This is how much money I need. What do you think? So you're asking your potential future customers, would you buy this? And then if they pledge you money, obviously they get something in return, but if they pledge you money, that's the way of you going, okay, this actually might work. So it's not you asking for investment. You don't give equity away in crowd. You can do with crowdfunders if it's equity based, but majority of them are rewards based or charity based. So yeah, it's basically asking a crowd of people to help you build whatever it is that you need to build.
And you raised over 20K in 35 days. How did you set that target and come to that number?
Yeah, it was just, my target was about £18,102.94 or something. It was really precise because I worked out how much money I would need to build the MVP of my app. So the initial product development of it, how much would I need? I got it all out on a spreadsheet, and that was the amount I needed. So the 21,000 was because we actually were overfunded. So on the last day of the campaign, people were still pledging, which was amazing. And you never really know, because it's really difficult. You've got a figure in mind, and obviously at the time I didn't know how expensive it was going to be to build an app. I kind of wish I would have asked for a little bit more, but then at the time you don't think you're going to get that. So it's difficult knowing what exactly. So I just thought I'm just going to go with what exactly it is I need to build it, and then we'll go from there. So yeah.
And actually, on a question in terms of, was it an all or nothing? So if you didn't reach the
Yeah.
18,000,
Yeah.
and is that generally the way with crowdfunding?
People do it different ways. I work now with people who want to crowdfund, kind of helping them, and a couple of clients I've worked with are doing the take what you make. So they if they've got a target of 10,000 but they only make 5,000, then they take away the 5,000. Whereas I went for the slightly riskier one of if I don't raise the money in the time, then you don't get anything. Which
What made you go for that? Yeah, what made you go for that one?
I like living life on the edge. Oh, quite clear. I think I spoke to somebody very early on who was like a crowdfund expert, and I spoke to a few other people that had crowdfunded before me, because I always think that's a really important thing to do if you are thinking of crowdfunding. Speak to people that have done it before. And I kind of felt like if I wasn't going to raise the money that I needed, then should I really be doing what I was doing? And that could be lots of different, and I also don't think that means if you don't raise the money, then you should just quit everything, because a lot of people start crowdfunder campaigns without actually putting in a lot of the background work and the marketing. And I see lots of people now that are crowdfunding and they decide to crowdfund on the Sunday. They set the campaign up on the Monday and then they're like, oh, why aren't people pledging? So I do think if you don't make the target, it doesn't necessarily mean because your idea is bad. It just might mean that you've not planned it well enough. So yeah, I just felt like it wasn't for me as a motivator, and to get people really on board with the journey. I felt like the all or nothing was the only way for me to go, really. So I'm glad I did it in the end, even though halfway through I was like, why have I chosen this option? I should have just done the take what I make. But
And when you see the money coming in, how nerve-wracking is that? Because I'd imagine there's very much peaks and troughs
yeah,
with how money comes in over that period of time.
yeah, 100%. So the first when you launch, if you've done all of your work beforehand, you should get a spike at the beginning. That's when a lot of people pledge at the beginning. Then it's known as like the valley of death in the middle, because that's when it drops, and that's when you have to kind of keep things going and new initiatives, and that's all down to the marketing. And then right at the very end again is when it then goes up again, because obviously people last minute, or they've not seen it before, and that's when people want to get involved. So the beginning and the end are kind of the highest points, and then the middle is where you've really got to get your marketing, and that's when all your self-belief has to come in.
Yeah, like how did you manage that from a like a personal and emotional level, thinking, right, this might not,
Yeah.
where is, what's happening?
Yeah, I think I felt like throughout the whole campaign, there was one moment where I actually was a bit worried, but for the whole campaign, I was just so focused on, I'm going to do this. This is going to happen. I'm going to make this work. So I was very like laser focused on that, and kind of in the back of my mind thinking, if it didn't work, then I'll just do it again. I'll find another way. So I was quite driven in that sense. But there was a time, I think it was the weekend before, I think the campaign closed on like a Wednesday, and it was the weekend before, and we still had about £10,000 to raise. And I remember thinking, like, actually, this might not happen. It was like the first time I was kind of questioning it. But the mindset thing is huge when you're crowdfunding. Like, you've really got to keep that, momentum going in your head, and that self, because it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. So having that and speaking and having that support around you and other people to help get you through that is what you need, because a lot of people kind of give up in that middle bit because they just
And
think, oh,
don't
it's
show up and don't
yeah,
keep
you've
showing
got
up.
to keep going.
And you ran yours for 35 days. Is there like a rule of thumb of,
How long? Yeah, I think so. Mine was, I think it worked out to be 29 days it finished. So it was like we raised like the 18,000 or whatever in the 28 days. But then because it was overfunded, they give you then another few days. That's why it went to the 21. But at that point, I was kind of like done. So those last 5 days, I was like, yeah, like, if you
whatever?
want to get involved, do. If not, I'm fine. Majority of campaigns are a month. I have seen some longer. I wouldn't suggest going longer than 30 days because you have to do, bearing in mind like the prep beforehand, the pre-launch.
Yeah.
So that takes longer than a month. So in total, you don't want to be doing this for, and you've got to put so much into it.
And
I would say the less the better, if possible.
and I can imagine the more you're putting into this, the more you're neglecting other sides of your business if you're running a business
Yes.
already as well
Yeah.
anyway. So everything kind of
Yes.
gets left.
Yeah.
So Talk to me then about that pre-launch and the campaign. How did you approach that, and what did you do?
Mm. So I think the people that I work with now is if they haven't got a pre-launch in place, then that's like a red flag. So having a pre-launch is one of the most important things you can do with the campaign. And I think with anything that you're launching in business, whether it's a product or a service-based business, you've got to have that pre-launch. You've got to be telling people what you're doing before you do it. It's like organising a big birthday party and organising people like and telling people about it a day before. People aren't going to come, so you've got to really kind of
Nurture.
ramp up and build that momentum and get people excited, get people on board with you so they feel like they're part of it. And I think if you do that really early on, the more successful your campaign's going to be. So spending time in that pre-launch phase, telling people about it, talking to people about it, setting up an Instagram, talking about it on LinkedIn, getting people's email addresses, emailing people, like all of that bit before you've even launched is the most important thing you can do, I think. So for me, that was like that was my biggest prep in getting that pre-launch right.
And from a timeline point of view, how far in advance do you think you should be before you open the doors, so to speak, or
Yeah.
open the gates for people to fund? How long should that
Mm,
pre-launch time be that you're talking about it?
I think 2 weeks to 4 weeks, I think. I was recommended to have a month's pre-launch before, but the timings weren't working out, and I was launching mine like late November time, and it would have just gone over to Christmas. So I had about 2 week pre-launch, or just over 2 weeks, and that actually worked out quite well. If you do it like, all the time and every day in those 2 weeks, then it's fine. I would say between 2 and 4 weeks is probably ideal.
So I would imagine because you had a more concentrated period of time, it was very, very full on in terms
Mm.
of everything that you were doing. Do you think if it is the 4 weeks, it still needs to be as full on, or that
I
you can
think you
have
can drip feed it.
a
Yeah, I think if you're doing a pre-launch 4 weeks, you can talk about you're doing the campaign, getting people to sign up. You can start putting things out there. But in terms of because you're going to be so full on during that campaign, you don't want to be burning yourself out in that pre-launch bit. So it all depends on how people work, how productive they are, how they're, I'm very like, if I know I've got that deadline, I'm just like hyper focused. If it's too long, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to bother doing that till the last minute.
till like the night before.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yep.
so when people are planning their campaign, what would you say is a checklist or a roadmap that they need to think of?
I mean, there's quite a lot, to be honest, and it depends on the campaign as well and what it is that they're trying to do. But I would say the main things is be as prepared as possible. So get your marketing plan in place beforehand. Get a list of all of the people you want to help you. So people that will support you in terms of sharing the campaign, and they're called amplifiers usually with crowdfunders. So depending on obviously what it is that you're trying to crowdfund for in your network, there'll be people within your network or people who your customers might know who've got their own networks and their own communities that can start promoting it for you. So get in contact with all of those people as early as possible in your pre-launch phase to let them know what it is that you're doing, that you're going to be crowdfunding, this is the date, this is the link, kind of make it as easy for them as possible. So then when you do actually launch, you've got kind of a list of people that you can go to, and you can do that during the campaign as well. So I would say get a Trello board or whatever you use, pen and paper, and just kind of get all of your key dates, key people and marketing plan all kind of up and running before you even do the pre-launch. So can be as prepared as possible. Obviously things will change during the campaign, but as long as you've got that kind of checklist so you know what you're doing on each day.
Is there an investment required for the campaign? Did you like invest money in your campaign and in your marketing, or was it
One of the mistakes I made very early on was thinking I could run an event and get people to pledge for the event that was during when the crowdfunder was running. So it was like during the campaign, but you can't do that. Everything you're doing or offering has to be after the campaign has finished.
okay?
So the support that I needed in terms of somebody designing the app, and one of my co-workers actually helped me with the filming of it. She's a videographer, luckily, so she kind of lent me her camera. All of those costs I put into my spreadsheet with how much I needed to build the app. So as
Right.
well as development costs, I put in a little bit for the crowdfunder campaign, basically. So anything that you think you might need, you can add that to the campaign as well. So any support that you might need to get it up and running, you can add that in the costs.
And what from the marketing activities that you did, and I know sometimes this is hard to measure, but what did you get the best return from and reach from?
You can actually look. So on your, depending on what you use, you have like a dashboard and you can see afterwards the analytics. And I'm really annoyed with myself because obviously I wanted to do it straight away. I want to do so much reflection on the campaign and to show people actually the behind the scenes of the analytics. But it did actually show me where the most pledges had come from. Top was Instagram. I think second was email, then Facebook, then LinkedIn. So you can actually see the number of people coming from different areas. That doesn't mean to say, obviously, they haven't seen the email, then pledged on it. Obviously, I was putting the link out on Instagram all the time. But that was quite interesting for me because, especially with Instagram, and I've been saying for years, don't put all of your eggs in one basket and, have an email list, do all of the other things, go on LinkedIn, go to networking events, which I was doing. But actually, at the end of the day, the Instagram was the kind of, the best performing for me, probably because I was on there all the time. That's where I was showing up the most. So I suppose that makes sense. But
Yeah, like wherever you're putting the energy of your time, at
mm,
least it that was the right reward then. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? Rather than coming from a different um stream. What would you say? What would you do differently now, looking back on it?
Oh, get help. I reached out to a few people at the beginning to help me kind of formulate some sort of plan, which they did, and I had it all and it was all lovely. But then during the campaign, I kind of didn't go to it at all because I was kind of doing things on the day, which I know sounds really counterproductive, but I kind of needed someone to help me every day, being like, Danielle, do this today, do this. And that's what I do with my clients now. So we have like a Trello board and we say, right, on the Monday, reach out to PR, then do this on your Instagram. I kind of needed that. So I think looking back, I would have just had like I don't know, just like a VA or a project manager or someone just to work alongside me to kind of give me instructions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would have really, really helped. And yeah, just someone to help, I think, because it was a lot doing it all,
Yeah.
all on my own.
And what kinds of rewards did you offer?
Yeah, they were quite different. And I think I was lucky in the sense that I did it just before Christmas. So I could kind of tap into if people wanted to buy Christmas, something that was completely unrelated to what I
Yeah.
was building. But I was also working with my network and female founded businesses that have product based businesses as well. So people that were in my community, a lady has these lovely silk like eye masks and silk pillows. There was another lady that does these diaries. So they contributed towards the campaign, and we then put those on the campaign as well as other services. We had a lady who was running like a LinkedIn mastermind, a content creation session, a coaching session. So I worked with people within my network who we had a similar audience, so it kind of made sense. But it was nothing to do with the app. It was just, knowing actually what do my potential customers, what would they like? And yeah, we just kind of work with people. So it was a real, you can be really creative with it doesn't have to be kind of black and white.
Yeah, and I think that's a really key point because I think there'll be some people who be listening here that they're product businesses
Mm.
and they may be thinking, oh, I have to give away loads of product before I've even made it, or
Yeah.
I have to give away a lot of product that is just going to completely screw my profit margin. You know, what are the other things that they could give
Yeah.
away? Like you say, using your connections and your
Yeah.
network, getting them involved.
Yeah, and if you've got a designer that's designed your product, would they be able to offer something? Or if or could you run an event for people, like an exclusive event for people that have just are pledging to come to your events? You can talk about the new product. Like there's loads of different things that you can do, and you can see when you are crowdfunding what other campaigns are going on at the same time and what rewards are doing well. So when you're running your own, you can kind of look and say, oh, they've got a product-based business and they're offering this, and you can see like which ones are going because of how many they've got left. So it's worth your while just kind of checking and seeing what other people are doing and what's worked well for them.
And can you see that before you've started yours in
Yeah.
terms of the research point of view?
Oh yeah. You can go. I mean, you could go on Crowdfunder or Kickstarter or whatever the ones are now and just look at the live campaigns. And I think on their homepage they put like the best performing ones. So the kind of goal is when you first launch is to get on that homepage, because then that helps kind of obviously push it to people that aren't in your network. But you can see what other people are doing and get ideas and inspiration from them. So yeah, definitely do your research before.
And what were the kinds of rewards that worked the best for you? Was it particular value or was it the experiences?
The rewards that went the most was the pre. So my app is a membership model, so people joined for like 1 month or 3 months membership of the app, and that was definitely the most popular reward because it wasn't too expensive. It was kind of a mid range. You've got to have rewards that are all different price points. So they always say to have one that's about around like the £10, £15 mark. For people that want to support, they might not be necessarily fussed about getting something back, but it's what can you give them for that. And then obviously the higher end. So I had lots of mid-range ones, and it wasn't probably until midway through the campaign I actually realised, oh, why haven't I done more sponsorship rewards? Because people were kind of asking me about that. And I put them in a lot later, and I kind of feel like, looking back now, I wish I'd have had them earlier on, because there were people that actually wanted that. But I don't know, it's difficult when you haven't actually, when something doesn't exist, it's just in your head, and you're saying, would you pay £500 for this? You kind of don't want to put it out there. But then as soon as I did, I had a lady on LinkedIn who was not in my network. I've never met her, spoken to her before. She just signed up to one of the £500 sponsorships. And I was like, okay, people actually do want this. Yeah. So yeah, I think definitely have like a different price point, a range of the rewards, and don't release them all at the same time. It's important to kind of have a staggered. So when you're in that death valley of the campaign, you want to then just be releasing different ones as you go. So you can be like, oh, next week we've got this really exciting product that we're launching. You can pledge for this. So you've always got things happening during the campaign.
And can you do a mix of rewards and donations, or does it always have to be?
No, I don't feel, not on Crowdfunder. It has to be. I think you can get, people can, oh, do you mean if they don't get something back in return? They just,
yeah, so
sorry.
It's just like, do you know what? I just really want. I think this is a great idea. I want to support this founder, but actually, I don't want to take any of the rewards. I want them to keep the rewards for other people, or
Sorry, you can do that. You can do that. So yeah, I did have people that would just pledge an amount of money, and it was just, it wasn't for a reward. There is a section on there where you can put in what you want.
Most of the campaigns that I see, they always have video. Is that a definite, you need to have that as part of your campaign?
I think so. I think in this day and age now, we want to connect with the people that are behind the business, and I think it's so important to have that backstory and get to know the person. And it doesn't have to be a professional video. I was told very early on, you can just do it on your mobile, just do it, record a story. And that's what I would have done if I hadn't have had this relationship with the videographer friend and she'd lent me her camera. So I would have just done mine on my phone. That wouldn't have bothered me at all. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can literally just be you talking on your phone and just putting some subtitles on there. But yeah, I think if you're going to crowdfund, you do need a video on your page if you want to kind of stand out. Otherwise,
that you want to,
yeah.
And what about the legal side of things? Is it quite easy to understand? Are there a lot of T's and C's?
No, I mean, crowdfunding, I think, is a very unregulated industry, which seems crazy to me. So there's lots of, I think, on there. So when people are pledging towards a campaign, they don't actually, you don't get any of the money until the end of the campaign, and with the all or nothings as well. So if people pledged money and then I didn't reach the target, people would have got their money back. But it's really simple. You don't need to kind of do anything or worry about anything. It's all kind of covered by them, but it's unregulated.
When the campaign ends, what do you need to consider?
Resting. Mainly, I would say. I mean, it's hard because, and I kind of just experienced this now with actually launching the app, but you put so much into the campaign and the build up of the launch, the after bit, and it all depends again what it is that you're doing. I was launching it just before Christmas, and we weren't going to start building the app until the Feb next year, so I could take some time off and just rest and not do anything. However, you've also still got to keep that momentum going as well. Obviously, thanking everybody that supported the campaign, sending all your emails out. So all of that stuff, when you're absolutely exhausted, if you can have a lot of that stuff prepped and ready for after the campaign, so that you've got all of the templates and stuff, obviously thanking people. And when you go on the Crowdfunder dashboard, there's like easy ways of actually emailing all of your pledges. So it's, the easiest thing to do is just straight away go on and just obviously thank everybody, put some social media posts out, and then just don't do anything for like a week, because you'll need to just lie in the dark room.
And then does everything have to be done through the Crowdfunder app? Like, do you get their emails addresses, or do you not get those from GDPR?
No. So you can email them directly through the Crowdfunder page. You can't export their email addresses. No, hang on. I'm thinking of two different things. On their dashboard, you can send the emails out, but people that have pledged towards something, especially if you've got to send them something, you do have their details. So a lot of people, you have their email addresses and their address if you need to post something. However, I would still always say have a landing page, have somewhere where you are collecting their email addresses, so you own that data. So I had a landing page that people go onto and register their interest very early on. So you've got their emails. So, and there are some, I don't think Crowdfunder UK does it yet. I think on Kickstarter, they've got a pre-registration page where you can actually get people's email addresses before you've launched. And if they all did that, that would be amazing, because that would be like the best way to do it. So yeah, 100% have your own way of capturing people's emails.
And what other words of advice would you give to anyone thinking of doing a crowdfunding campaign? I know that we've covered quite a lot there, but is there anything else that sticks out in your mind?
I think the first one would be talk to people that have done it before. That's really important. There was a lady that I spoke to just while I was thinking of doing it, and then as I was starting it, but then also in the middle of me running it, because when I was having those, oh my God, I'm really freaking out moments, I'd message her and she'd be like, don't worry, this happened to me. And so you kind of you don't really know it. It's like having kids. You don't know what it's like until you're going through it. And I did think about setting up some kind of crowdfunder support group of people that are going through it at the same time. So definitely speak to people beforehand that have done it and get advice from them. Just be as prepared as you possibly can with everything. But for me, it's 100%, like 99.9% is mindset. You've got to believe that you can do it and this is going to happen. And in those hard bits, it's about remembering that all of the work that you're putting in and all of the work that you're doing in that kind of midsection, even though, if you post on social media, for example, and you don't get any likes, but then somebody buys from you the next week and you're like, well, why didn't you like? So it's like people are always watching, they're always watching what you're doing, they're always listening. So like it's about having that resilience to keep going during the campaign, even if you don't think anyone is watching or listening, because they are, and it will all kind of pay off at the end. So number one is just to keep that positive mindset of, you can do this. I think that's the most important thing, because that's the hardest thing when you start to doubt yourself, definitely.
And what did you do? Like, were there any not tactics, but was there any process that you went through, whether it was journaling or affirmations or visualization or vision boards or anything like that, that you went through that kept you focused on that? This is the amount of money I'm going to raise. This is what's going to happen. Or was it just those pep talks to yourself? Like, come on, Danielle.
Yeah. No, I didn't actually. When I had my first son, I did hypnobirthing, and I was really into that. And I put all those post-its on my bathroom of all of the things I had to say, and that actually really did help me. So I kind of feel like I probably should have done that, but I didn't. But no, mine was just the people around me. I was also running my old community at the same time, so we had like a WhatsApp group, and I'd always get people, if I was having a tough time, I'd get them all going, come on, you can do this. And that was amazing, having the support from other people. But yeah, if I were to do it again, I probably would have something on there, a bit like a vision board or something, where I could look to see, this is what I am trying to do. What's really nice is that when people are pledging, they can comment. So when you're having a particular hard time, you can look at people that pledge and all of their comments, and that kind of gives you that, I'm actually doing this for them. And that kind of gives you that little motivation as well.
And so you now help people do this as well. And so how can people find you and work with you in that basis, in that capacity?
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram as well, but it's not something that I do all of the time. So obviously I'm building that, but whenever I do stuff like this, or whenever I talk about it, and people kind of come up to me, and what I was noticing was people saying, how did you do it? What was the plan? How did you do this and this? So I started just to offer power hours for people. But then if people do want, I worked with a lady a couple of months ago who actually just needed a bit more help with the campaign. Like I kind of said earlier, in terms of let's get a Trello board out. Let's work out the 2 to 3 weeks. What are you going to do on these days, and kind of helping them with that. So, I just think it's such a under-tapped resource that people don't realise that they can access money for their business. So I really want as many people as possible, especially female founders, to know that they can, there is another way of raising money for your business without giving away equity. So the more people I can help, the better, really.
Or getting bank loans and that kind of thing, and having to pay
them back. Exactly. Yeah.
So currently the app is just based in locations in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And is it a plan to go global later on? What's your...
I would love to. I would love it to be obviously UK wide, but global. I've had a few people approach me from South Africa, in America, in Australia, and I'm actually going to America this summer for a family trip out. My partner's family are in California. And I'm just thinking there, when I'm there, I wonder if I can just... I would need about 500 more crowdfunders to do that. But I would love it to be worldwide. Why not?
And how can people use the app? So it's Flock here, it's FLCK.
Yeah, I can't spell my income. How do you spell flock? FLOCK dot app.
Oh, right. Okay. So it's Flock. Right.
Dot
Okay.
app, yeah.
Right. Fantastic. Well, I will be checking it out and using it very soon. And thank you so much for
Thank you for
joining
having
me
me.
today and sharing all your tips and advice. And I'll be back again next week with another great guest.
Thank you.